Thanks for joining us online today. If you've been impacted by this ministry and have a story to share of how God is working in your life, we would love to hear it. Send an email to amen@anchorpoint.tv. Also, you can help bring messages just like this one to others who need to hear the hope and love of Jesus by investing today at anchorpoint.tv/give. Now, we hope you enjoy today's message.
On your way to your seat, high five somebody and tell them you're in trouble. You're in trouble. When worship's that good, you're in trouble. Woo. I'm going to do my best to preach without yelling and screaming, but can't promise anybody anything. If you're new with us or you're a guest, thank you so much for spending a little bit of your weekend with us. My name is Todd, and I get the opportunity to serve as the lead pastor along with my wife Avery and our family, and just having the opportunity of a lifetime to be here and loving every minute of it. If you can't tell by our worship, man, we're in a special season right now of expectation and excitement. We're in a season of what I would call, if you're from a church background, revival. You know, not something that's on the calendar, but something that is happening in the hearts of our people. And man, we got a ton of things planned, and man, it's an opportunity. Today is Small Group Connect Sunday. Make sure you check out the catalog for that. I mean, a ton of stuff. I can't give you everything. Pastor Ron will be up at the end of the service to kind of get you all the information you need. But I'll say this: if you're not connected the month of September in our church, it's because you don't want to be. You don't want to be connected, because we're going to give you a ton of opportunity. But my heart is full about this brand new sermon series that we've entitled Breakthrough. Everybody say that word with me. 1, 2, 3, breakthrough. And kind of the idea or the heart behind breakthrough is that everybody in this room, we're all going to run into circumstances and situations in life that will break us if we don't learn how to break through. We're going to encounter a challenge or an obstacle that will break us if we don't go to God and figure out how to experience a breakthrough. And you don't need a breakthrough because you're a bad person, and you don't need a breakthrough because God is punishing you, and you don't need a breakthrough because you're a failure, and you don't need a breakthrough because you're destined to stay stuck and this is just who I am and I can't change anything about it. No, we need a breakthrough because we live in a broken world. That's the reality. We live in this world that we're going to run up against things and barriers and obstacles that we can't fix. In fact, if you would play along with me just for a little bit at the beginning of the message, let me ask you a question and let everybody vote on it. How many of you in this room would say there's at least one area, whether it be relational or financial or spiritual or mental or emotional, there's at least one area in my job or with my kids or with my estranged spouse, there's at least one area in my life that I need breakthrough? Would you raise your hand? At least one area? Yeah, thank you, 11:30 for being honest. 10 o'clock didn't want to raise their hand. I'm like, y'all are going to hell for lying. Yeah. Thank you, Jesus, for being here. No, I don't need nothing. My hand is up. The way I want to approach this subject today is through a concept of risk versus reward. That's a business term, risk versus reward. Business leaders would tell you where there is no risk, there is no reward. And I want to make a spiritual application to that and tell you today that where there is no risk, there is no breakthrough. Now, this was a little bit difficult for me because when I was younger, I was a risk taker. How many of you would say in a previous age you were a little bit more riskful? Yeah, I was a risk taker back in the day. Back in the 80s, come on somebody, we had a thing called the double dog dare. I ain't talking about online bullying. I'm talking about in-your-face shaming. That's what I'm talking about. You double dog dare. Dude, if you double dog marry me, I'm jumping off buildings and popping caps in people. I don't even know. I mean, you double dog dare me, and the police show up and like, they double dog dare me. The police are like, I can't do anything about that. It's a double dog dare. Yeah. I remember back in the 80s when safety was a suggestion. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Yeah. We didn't care about, my mom would lock me out of the house and say, don't come back till dark. Wasn't care about somebody snatching your kids. They snatched me. They bring me back. Trust that. We had bicycle ramps. How many know what a bicycle? Come on. We had a creek at my house. My brother said, I bet you can't jump that. I said, you tell him, give me enough cinder blocks. I was doing geometry at 8 years old. I'm measuring it, Now we bubble wrap our kids before they walk out the door. That's another subject. In fact, when I was in high school, I was voted class clown. Can you believe that? Hey, calm down. That's not that funny. In fact, the title of my senior superlative was least likely to grow up. We're about to have our 20-year high school reunion. I got a phone call the other day, and they're like, hey, man, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. What are you doing now? I'm like, I'm a pastor. They're like, you're a what? It's like, I know. You should see my church, you know. Got a little older, got a little wiser, a little more domesticated. Some people, better. Some people would say boring. And now I take calculated risk. I don't take risk for the risk's sake anymore. I took a calculated risk last Sunday morning if you were here. Go back and watch it online. I talked about my wife's laundry making skills. Don't do that, by the way. It got worse as the day went on. My brother called me up. He listened to the podcast. He's like, what are you doing? You know, and did you get your shirt washed? I'm like, no, she threw all my clothes out. Anyway. Some people are natural risk takers. How many of you are natural risk takers? You live on the edge a little bit. Adrenaline, only like 4 of you. Okay. All right. Let me see. Maybe a little bit more of a risk taker. I saw a woman the other day who was a risk taker. She was driving down 59. She was driving with her knee. Anybody ever done this? Driving with her knee? And she's got one eye like this and the other eye with eye drops, putting them in, driving down. I'm like, Jesus, take the wheel right now. Right now. Carrie Underwood. Let me tell you how I got introduced to Foley, Alabama. Moved to Foley, Alabama 9 years ago, and there was a guy coming up Juniper Street, and he was riding a bicycle. He was riding a bicycle, pedal bike, with no shirt on, smoking a cigarette, carrying a propane tank. Risk taker. I'm like, get some life insurance. That's how we do it down here, you know. That's how you gonna do it up there if that's where you going. But anyway. Now, as we get older, typically we get less adventurous as we get a little older, but the same is true kind of in our faith. When you're young and you come to faith, man, you got faith that, man, move mountains, man, you believe in God to do it again, and He's going to show up. I remember when I first planted, me and my wife, we planted this church, man, I was full of faith. Man, I get up on Sunday morning, I spit, scream, yell, blah, blah, blah. And people afterwards, I hear them talking, well, he'll calm down in about 10, he'll learn in a little bit, he'll learn. I came to tell you this morning, I hope I don't. I hope there's not a Sunday you don't show up in here that I'm up here screaming and yelling, believing God to do the impossible in your life. I hope I never quit believing that no weapon formed against me will prosper. I hope I never quit being excited that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, that greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. I hope you come in here for the next 10 years and I'm jacked up on Jesus and coffee. Come on, somebody. And I'm preaching you into your breakthrough. Man, I hope I don't calm down. But here's what I know. If I'm not careful, if you're not careful, indifference can creep in your life. Indifference can creep in. In fact, life has a way of lulling you into indifference. Time has a way of talking you into indifference, that thing that you wanted a breakthrough in a year ago or 10 years ago will never change and can never change. And my fear is many of us have gotten to the place where we're just tired because we believed for a breakthrough for so long and it never came. And if that's you, if that's where you are, I want to talk to you this morning. If you're jotting down notes, I want you to understand it like this. Breakthrough begins when indifference ends. That I am announcing an end to indifference and apathy in your spiritual life over the next 4 weeks. Breakthrough begins when indifference ends. And my goal, I'm telling you, you just need to be ready. I want to try to inspire you to believe again, to try again, to trust God again. Now, the biggest problem I have is probably the problem you have. We all share it. And I call it the barrier that we'll face, the barrier of before. Barrier before. You know, we Pastor, I tried that before. You know, we tried to get counseling for our marriage before. You know, I tried to invest in my spiritual life before. I tried to get a hold on that habit that became an addiction. Say it with me. Before. I tried to go to that small group and get that my finances straightened out. I tried that before. You know, I've tried to get a handle on my schedule where I wasn't ran by my life, but I ran my life. I tried it, say it with me, before. And the question I begin to ask myself this week is, well, what do you do when you've tried before? Well, what do you do when you failed before? What do you do in those situations? And I was just like, man, I'm like, if I was talking to myself, like real talk, I would trust God more than I fear failure. If you're here this morning and you've had to battle the barrier of before, I'm just telling you, I will refuse to give up on the God who's never given up on you, and I would try again. I would try again. And if I failed, I'd try again. And I would, because I believe breakthrough is possible. When Jesus is in the room, anything is possible. But it won't happen unless indifference ends. In fact, the Bible gives us a very clear picture of this in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 14. If you have a Bible, it's in the Old Testament, 1 Samuel chapter 14. Go to the middle of your Bible and hang a left. And if you're not, you got a mobile device, you can go there. If you don't have any of those things, inside your worship guide was a note sheet, and you can follow along at least with the text there. I'm going to kind of set the scene. I'll give you 3 takeaways. Israel is the nation, and we open the scene in 1 Samuel 14, and they're at a time of war, much like in the Old Testament, with what would be considered their arch nemesis of the Old Testament, the Philistines. There's 2 main characters to our story. One is Saul and one is Jonathan. Saul is the king over Israel. He's the first king of Israel, and he is toward the latter part of his reign in Israel. Jonathan is his son, and the Philistines are fighting the Israelites from a stronghold. A stronghold is simply a place of power. So they have a strategic advantage in warfare against the nation of Israel, okay? And they are literally being terrorists, where they will operate from a stronghold. They will send terrorist or raiding parties out to terrorize the people of God. Our army is so disillusioned at this point, they have deserted Saul. In fact, the Bible tells us that there's only about 600 men left with Saul. They left him. Here's why. Because Saul will not fight. He will not risk anything anymore, because if he risks the battle, he may lose the kingdom. Jonathan can't handle that. In fact, Jonathan would rather die fighting for a breakthrough than sitting in safety. Jonathan understands to build God's reputation, he may have to risk his. And it's in this setting that I want to kind of unpack a few things that I think will help us to begin to experience a breakthrough. And the first one is this. If you're jotting down notes, jot this down. Take some initiative. Take some initiative. How many of you got some kids in your house that need to take some initiative? How many of you got some family members that want to call you ever so often that you wish would take a little initiative? How many of you got some employees that need a little bit of initiative? And the initiative separates the best from the rest. In fact, sometimes I'm convinced that our lack of breakthrough has to do with our lack of initiative. See, initiative is self-motivation. And I love motivating people, and I love being motivated. I love encouragement, and I love being encouraged. But sometimes there's got to be something on the inside of you that says, I'm tired of being in this situation. I am tired of what the enemy is doing to me. And because sometimes the enemy will simply tire you out to get you where you will not fight anymore. And there's got to be something on the inside of you that says, I refuse to wait around for something to happen when I am a person of God with the presence of God on the inside of me. I will take the fight to the enemy, because I found out when doing nothing produces nothing. Look what happens in 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse number 1. One day, I love when the Bible starts out because it's just an ordinary day in the month of September. One day, Jonathan, the son of Saul, the king, said to his young armor bearer, get familiar with that phrase, the one who carried his armor. Look what he said. He said, come, say those 2 words with me. Let's go. And sometimes you got to say them with a little attitude. Let's go. I'm talking about, that's going to be the hashtag for this series if you're on social media. Let's go. Let's do this. I'm about to send it. Let's go. YOLO. Let's go. Over to the Philistine outpost on the, say it with me, other side. Hello, Adele. From the other side, we're going over. We're tired of standing still. We are moving forward. But he did not tell his father. Saul, the king, was staying on the outskirts of Gibeah under a pomegranate tree. Keynote, pomegranate trees represented luxury. So we have a king who is sitting in the lap of luxury during a time of war. He was sitting there with about 600 apathetic, disrespectful men. I added that part with him. My prayer over the next 4 weeks that we will stop acting like Saul and start acting like Jonathan, that will say, let's go. And yes, initiative is risky. I'm going to throw that out there. That's risk versus reward. It is. But I've learned a long time ago, you can't play it safe and please God. In fact, I'm convinced Jesus Christ did not come, hang on a cross, die, and get resurrected for us to live safe and secluded lives. That he handed us the keys to the kingdom. He didn't say take the keys and hide them. He said take the kingdom to the far corners of the world and be the people of God for the purpose of God in the earth. And here's what I figured out. I would rather have failure with Jesus than success without him. I would rather learn how to fight and not be so afraid to fail. I got to get some fight back in us. In fact, I remember as a youth pastor, being a youth pastor many, many years ago now, over 10 years ago, we ministered outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, which is not a major metropolitan as far as the big cities of the country, but it was for us. And we started a nonprofit youth organization, and we figured if we were going to start something, we should be just kind of reaching out to people who are underserved and under-resourced. So man, we had a vision to reach our city. So my senior pastor, you met him on Father's Day. My spiritual father, Pastor Lynch, we went and we started purchasing old school buses from the school bus option. And we had about 12 buses and about 7, 8 white Ford vans. And we would run around all the city of Concord, North Carolina, run into government housing projects and underserved communities and under-resourced areas. And we would pick kids up and we would bring them to the church. And it was awesome, man. We were busing in about 800 to 1,000 kids every Wednesday night. And I'm telling you, unchurched kids brought unchurched problems. We had law enforcement on a Wednesday night just to make sure everything stayed safe. And man, it was unreal. You know, we had a lot of gang violence in our community. Not because it was just metropolitan, but because it's just the community environment. And I remember, man, we saw thousands of kids saved over an 8-year period. We saw people throw their bandanas down. We had drugs thrown on the stage. It was awesome. But one of the things that as our youth ministry grew, our youth team was mostly like me. And we began to reach people who were not like me. In fact, we began to reach people who were African American, and we began to reach people who were Hispanic. And my skin color was the minority in the youth group that about 4 or 5 of us youth pastors would pastor. But we figured if Jesus called us, he'd provide a way. And he gave us influence into those communities and into those relationships, and it was just amazing. So we began to drag these kids all over the country, man. We took them to the beach. Kids had never been to the beach. Parents, they didn't have to pay anything. We raised all the money and paid for them to go. We took them to the mountains and tubing. So one year we got a great idea. We're like, man, we're gonna do a Halloween thing. And I get Halloween's of the devil, but just stick with me, all right? All right. So we took them and we grabbed up all of our kids, a few white kids, and all these things, just very, very diverse group. And we took them out in the middle of nowhere. All right, that was my first mistake. Okay, first we talking about it'd be like going out into Elsinore for a haunted hayride. Okay, again, I was a youth pastor. I didn't know any better, guys. So we got up there that day and we cut a haunted trail through this guy's woods, and he got the tractor ready and the hay bales, and man, we started putting sponges where you're gonna jump out, and we had a pulley system. We rigged a ghost to come fly down on this thing. Yeah, and then we got chainsaws, and we took the chainsaws. We got weed eaters. I was ghetto, y'all. I grabbed anything I could that had an engine. And we got a strobe light and a fog machine, and then we went and bought scream masks. How many of you remember those things, right? Yeah, we went and bought scream masks. Like, this is going to be awesome. It's going to be amazing. So we got up there tonight, a bonfire, got dark, man. We got ready, and like, who wants to go first? And none of the African-American kids wanted to go first. So we took the first group around. It's mostly people like me. And it was pretty good. Because you got to understand, when white people get scared, they kind of like, when white people get scared, they're like, oh, no, stop. Get the chainsaw off of me, pastor. I didn't know that that's not how black people act when they get scared. Because the next group had my bus route. And my bus route got on that thing, and we took them around. And when that ghost on the pulley system came, y'all, it came unglued. And they were not going, We run out with chainsaws. And I'm talking about 15 of them stand up and say, let's go. Come on right now. I know it's you, pastor, so I don't even care. This girl named New York, it was her nickname, New York, she grabbed a hay bale and threw it at me. I'm like, hey, I'm the pastor, trying to get my mask off. I can't get my mask off. Some of y'all are like, hey, should we laugh at that? I don't know. Never in my wildest dreams did I think they would fight back. Ever. Can I tell you something? The enemy to your soul, never in his wildest dreams does he think you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and get your fight back. Some of you are one fight away from a breakthrough. You've been sitting in apathy, been sitting in indifference. Not anymore. We are going to stand up because we're the people of God and we got the Spirit of God on the inside of us. And you're one fight away from getting your family back. You're one fight away from getting your child back. You're one fight away from getting breakthrough from that addiction. And it's time to get your fight back. Get your fight back. Then see, here what I figured out. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions to get your fight back. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions to get initiative. In fact, I found out perfect never happens. I hear people that are waiting we're just waiting on the perfect time to have kids. It's all the parents right there. Trust me, you won't be ready when they come. And so it wasn't perfect. In fact, I got a little verse in there I want to show you so you can see this, because Jonathan didn't pick the perfect time. He just showed initiative. Look what it says in verse number 4. On each side of the pass that Jonathan intended to cross, what was a cliff. There's actually two cliffs, and one was called Bozez and the other was called Sina. One was called Rock, little translation, other called Hard Place. I mean, that's what it is. One was called Rock and the other, it could be translated Thorny. So there's these two mountain peaks or cliffs, Rock and a Hard Place, and the sun barely passes over. So the water and the mud, so literally to Jonathan, what most people saw as a barrier, he sees as an opportunity as he goes between a rock and a hard place, because breakthrough will not come from a place of comfort. Breakthrough will come from confronting the hard place. That's where breakthrough comes from. See, initiative asks, what can I do? What can I do? Initiative doesn't complain about what they do not have. What can I do? Well, I don't have the resources, I don't have the ability, and I don't have this and this thing. What do you have? What is within your reach? What do you have? What can you do? What can you do? What skill can you build? What book can you reach? What small group can you join? What dream team can you serve on? What person can you love? What patient endurance can you have? What can I do? Because entitlement is the enemy to initiative. And some of you are thinking right now, well, thank God I don't have entitlement. Let me give you a definition for entitlement. Entitlement is expecting someone else to do what you are unwilling to do. Entitlement is not a political term, it's a spiritual term. Entitlement is expecting someone else to do what you are unwilling to do. And my fear is that many of us are expecting a breakthrough, but are unwilling to press through. Expecting and wanting a breakthrough, but unwilling to pray through. Church I grew up in, you prayed through. Right. Desiring a breakthrough, but unwilling to go through what will take it from concept to reality. And it's time to say no more. That if we don't do anything right, we're going to take some initiative and we're going to take the fight to the enemy, because I am sick and tired of him terrorizing my mind and terrorizing my home. While somebody is sitting under a pomegranate tree, the enemy is wreaking havoc. We need to be a Jonathan, say, I will take to the fight to the enemy. If you believe it, say amen. Amen. Second thing is, if you're jotting down notes, learn to never fight alone. Jonathan's going to teach us that you never fight alone. You know why? We need each other. We need each other. We need each other like Batman needs Robin. Come on, like Mario needs Luigi. Come on, somebody. Like Bert needs Ernie. Come on. Like Saban needs Tua. Come on, somebody. Slow breakup, Jalen. I'm sorry. It's over. We can't be friends anymore. You never reach your potential by yourself. And I love to teach this concept, but I struggle so much with it because I hate waiting on people. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I hate depending on other people. Anybody can get amen? I just don't like it. I get frustrated. In fact, a couple weeks ago, me and my wife were moving from our rental house into our current home, and we were taking some stuff. So she had a load, and I had a load, and the boys were in the car with her, and we follow her out, and we were living over there off 55 and drive down to a stoplight, 55 and 98. We drive down there, and things are fine, cool, taking a bunch of stuff over. And the light turns green, and my wife doesn't move. Now I do what every man in this room would do. I give her a 5-second buffer. You know what I'm talking about? I'll give you 5 seconds. 5 seconds is enough to realize the light's green. About 5 seconds, she doesn't move again. She still doesn't move. And about that time, my blood starts to boil a little bit. Anybody experience this in traffic? Yeah, my blood starts to boil just a little bit. And I wait 10 seconds, and then I start to get upset. In fact, by 15 seconds, I'm grabbing my steering wheel like it's a stress ball, y'all know? And I don't know, I start to think, she's on the phone. She can't see that light because she's on the phone. Got my babies in them car, and she's on the phone. And I don't know if you ever talk to other cars like they're in, like the person, you ever do that? Yeah. So I'm like, get off the phone! Get off the phone! I start blowing the horn. She still is not moving. I start to get out my car, go knock on my wife's door. About the time I open my door, an ambulance. I'm gonna shut my door, I'm gonna stay right here. And I learned the benefit of relationship that day. Sometimes people see things you can't see. Never fight alone. Watch what happens. Verse number 6, Jonathan said to his young armor bearer, who is nameless, but he is faithful. I love that. His young armor bearer, look what he says, come, let's go. Come, let's go over to the outpost of those pagan men. Say the words with me. Perhaps the Lord, let me give you translations. Maybe the Lord will act on our behalf. Look at this faith. Say it with me. Nothing can hinder the Lord. I love that phrase. Nothing can hinder the Lord from saving, whether by many or by few. Do all that you have in mind, his armor bearer said. Go ahead, I'm with you, heart, and say it with me, soul. We got to have somebody in our lives who's with us, heart and soul. Got to have people who surround you that are with you, heart and soul. I want you to be able to go to a church, not just this church, where you can say, Pastor, I'm with you, heart and soul. In fact, if you come to this church for a while and you're like, man, I just don't know if I can get behind the mission. I don't know if I can get behind the vision. Hey, I get that. I want to help you. And if this is not the place for you, I would love to help you find a place where you can get planted and say, you know what? I am behind the mission. I am behind the vision. I am behind the strategy. Because when we all work together, it is impossible for the enemy to stop us. I want relationship that push me to God, not lead me from God. That the reason I think the armor bearer followed Jonathan is because Jonathan had a faith worth following. And I hope that the ministry here gives you a faith worth following, because your friends will affect your faith and your faith will affect your friends. We got to get some Jonathans in our life. Maybe God will show up. Dude, if we're lucky, we're going to go over there and God's going to, I'm going to be honest with you. Jonathan's a little crazy. He's a little cray-cray. And some of you need to get a little crazy in your life. That's why you need to join a small group. Some of you thinking, that's the reason I don't. Crazy people there. No, you got enough crazy bad people in your life. You need some crazy good people in your life. You need somebody crazy enough that when you tell them you're thinking about quitting a job, you say, nope, get another job first. You need somebody crazy enough that when you say, the doctor said I got cancer, that they're just crazy enough. Well, I believe God can heal you. In fact, I'm going to start praying right now. You need somebody crazy enough to show up at a hospital room and believe God to move and the throne room of heaven to speak to earth and for us to be redeemed and restored. You need somebody crazy enough that in your life, you got enough bad crazy telling you to quit and walk away. You need somebody crazy enough to say, I believe what God has spoken will come to pass. Don't quit. Don't throw in the towel. I'm with you, heart and soul. Some of you need to pull that small group calendar out. You need to get in a group. You need somebody in your life. You need a Jonathan. Jonathan did not ask, why God? Why God? I don't understand, God. I'm a good person, Lord. I go to church. I give in the offering sometimes. You know what I mean? Lord, you know my heart. I got bills, don't give all the time. But Lord, this is a good person. Well, I don't understand why this has happened to me. Jonathan did not ask why God. He asked, why not God? Why not? Why not me? Why not a breakthrough? Why not now? In fact, I wish this series, you would think that. Why not me? Why not now? Why not a breakthrough in my life? Why not freedom from addiction in my life? Why not freedom from anxiety and depression in my life? Why not now, God? Why can't you make me a testimony? Why can't you make me a glory to be used for your glory? Why can't you save my child? Why can't you redeem my future? Why not now? So Jonathan gets down with the armor bearer, and you can read it on your own. I'll paraphrase it. He said, here's the plan. Armor bearer, where's your heart and soul? John's like, good. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to climb up this rock and hard place. We're going to climb up on the top, and we're going to get to the top of the cliff, and we're going to be like, ah! And the armor bearer, like, and then we're going to Judy chop him. No, John's like, we're going to get up there, and we ain't going to surprise nobody. We're going to be like, here we are. And if the Philistines say, bring it on, it's on. It's on like Donkey Kong. But if they say, wait there, we'll come to you, we're going to run because it's a bad idea. Now, if I was the armor bearer, I would ask a few more questions. But he didn't. He's like, let's go. Watch what happens. Watch what happened. They jump up and shoot themselves. They say, bring it on. Jonathan's like, it's on. Look what he says. Verse number 11. So Jonathan said to his armor bearer, climb up after me. The Lord has given them into the hand of Israel. So Jonathan climbed up using his hands and feet with his who? With his armor bearer right behind him. Many of us are fighting on our own and we're exhausted. And the Philistines fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer followed and killed behind him. Many of us have convinced ourselves that alone is better. You know, if I just do it on my own, I don't have anybody else to disappoint. If I just stay kind of isolated and secluded, then I won't let anybody down anymore. I won't hurt anybody anymore. In fact, when I'm alone, I don't even have to hold myself accountable. And we convinced ourselves that this isolation is protecting us and the people we love. And I get the logic behind that, but let me tell you the spirituality behind that. Faith grows in groups. I don't mean small groups. I mean faith grows. When God wanted a nation, he built 12 tribes because I believe faith grows in groups. When God was ready for the church, he gave 12 disciples because faith grows in groups. When Jesus ascended to heaven and he left the church, he put groups of believers all over the known world because faith grows with groups. Some of you have been alone thinking you're protecting everyone around you while you're starving yourself spiritually. And it's worth it. The risk is worth it. It's worth it. It's worth vulnerability. Say, I'm not okay. It's worth it. Well, I've been in one of those groups and I didn't like it. Choose another group. Go to another group. What if I go to one and I don't like it? Don't go back. Pick another group. We got like 25 of them. Good Lord. Like Golden Corral up in here. You can find something. Step out in faith. Why? Because number 3, faith attracts God. Faith attracts God. There's something about faith that moves God. In fact, I'm convinced that faith positions us for breakthrough. Now listen to me when I say this. Tune back in. If you tuned out. Just because you have faith does not make breakthrough automatic. In fact, part number 4 of this series, we're going to cover what to do when breakthrough doesn't happen. Because all of us in this room have prayed for something that did not come. So we're going to cover that week number 4. So having faith does not mean breakthrough is automatic, but here's what I know. Not having faith means no breakthrough will ever happen. So faith invites God to get involved. That's all it does. Here's what it says in verse number 15. Throw it up there. Everybody say that word with me. 1, 2, 3. When Jonathan did what he could do and trusted God with what he could not do, say it with me. When Jonathan stepped out in initiative and said, I'm going to take the fight to the enemy because I'm not going to sit in safety while the enemy terrorizes my people, what does the Bible say? Everybody together, say it with me. Then a panic struck the whole army, those in the camp and the field, those in the outposts and the raiding parties. And the what? Say it with me. The ground shook. It was a panic sent by who? God. God got involved. You can't control everything that's going to happen in your life, everything that has happened in your life. But you can have faith. And faith is not blind optimism. Faith is not the power of positivity. Faith is a tangible substance and a future hope. The substance, it's real, of things hoped for. The evidence of things not seen. Faith is a risk, because I don't know. Perhaps. Maybe. We go over there and take a whipping. I don't know. It's a risk. And it's the reward. Faith is where you find God. That He is who He really is. And there's going to be a moment in your life, you can try your best, but there's going to be a moment in your life that requires faith. And here's what I figured out. Most of the time in our life, we have to step out to break through. We have to step out to break through. So I want to challenge you. Step out. Maybe the ground will shake. I don't know if it will, but I know it won't if I don't. So step out. Maybe the ground will shake in your marriage. Step out. And maybe the ground will shake with that child that's living life far from God. Step out. And maybe that thing that's had you enslaved, you will be broken free from. Step out. Maybe that anxiety that you don't talk about anymore and people think you're over, but you're not really over because you're depressed in your mind, but you don't want to share it with anybody because every time you shared it, people just looked at you like you were silly and like it wasn't a real problem, but it's a real problem to you, and you battle it right here. You battle it right here. And God is saying maybe you need to step out